There is still no peace in sight after nearly 3 hours of meeting held in Anchorage City in Alaska, a state in the United States, US, between President Vladimir Putin of Russia and President Donald Trump of the United States, over the war Russia launched since 2022 in Ukraine, which has led to thousands of deaths, mostly Ukrainians, which President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, who was not invited for the meeting on Friday, in a statement said that it was time to end the war, but Russia must take the necessary steps to a genuine peace deal. And while commenting on the statement made by the President of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, on Friday via X social media platform to mark Poland Armed Forces Day, which coincided with the day Putin and Trump met in Alaska, President Zelensky said that Ukraine's independence strengthens Poland's independence, and we must always remember that the miracle on the Vistula was made possible through joint efforts, and it saved Europe. And the Polish President, Karol Nawrocki, had said that today we celebrate the 105th anniversary of the great Polish victory at the Battle of Warsaw in 1920. The Polish army, together with Ukrainian forces, successfully repelled the Red Army's westward march, safeguarding Europe from a communist revolution. For centuries, Russian imperialism has been a mortal threat to our freedom. Poland's political tradition teaches that Russian expansionism rests on a legacy of domestic despotism, in which the only free man is the ruler himself. But precisely because Russian despotism is the enemy of freedom, Russian imperialism can only be defeated through an alliance of free peoples. My nation halted Russian imperialism at Orsha, 1514, Klushino, 1610, and Warsaw, 1920. It was probably a cynosure of world attention when Air Force One and Russia presidential aircraft officially wheeled down at Joint Base Elmendorf as President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin met face to face for the first time since the war in Ukraine started on February 24, 2022. And the Friday meeting marked the first time President Vladimir Putin of Russia was stepping on Western country soil since he launched the war against Ukraine. He was able to meet Trump in Alaska because the US is not a member country of the International Criminal Court, ICC, that issued a warrant of arrest against the Kremlin leader since 2023 over alleged war crime in Ukraine. It would be recalled that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, did not attend the 2025 annual Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa summit known as BRICS Summit in Brazil due to concerns over an International Criminal Court warrant for his arrest in connection with alleged war crimes committed in Ukraine. According to the Kremlin aide, Yuri Ushakov, President Vladimir Putin did not attend the summit due to certain difficulties in the context of the ICC requirement, adding, in that context, the Brazilian government could not take a clear position that would allow our president to participate in this meeting. Instead, the Russian leader joined his BRICS colleagues via video link. Putin was declared a war crimes suspect since the ICC named him in a March 2023 arrest warrant over the mass deportation of Ukrainian children. Russia stands accused of abducting and deporting tens of thousands of Ukrainian children, with many victims reportedly subjected to ideological indoctrination to rob them of the Ukrainian heritage and impose a Russian national identity. The alleged mass abductions, according to observers, may qualify as genocide according to the 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention, which identifies forcibly transferring children of the group to another group as one of 5 internationally recognized acts of genocide. As a signatory to the Rome Statute that established the ICC, Brazil would have been obliged to arrest Putin if he entered the country. Addressing the ICC warrant in 2023, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva initially dismissed talk of detaining the Russian president, before backtracking and distancing himself from the issue. If Putin decides to go to Brazil, it's the justice system that will take the decision over whether he should be arrested, not the government or Congress, Lula stated. Putin faced similar uncertainty 2 years ago ahead of the annual gathering of BRICS leaders, which was then being hosted by South Africa. The South African authorities reportedly came under considerable pressure from their Russian colleagues to provide assurances that the Kremlin dictator could travel to the August 2023 event without fear of arrest. Russia has made it clear that arresting its sitting president would be a declaration of war, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa stated then in the build-up to the summit. The African country was ultimately unable to offer any guarantees, forcing Putin to abandon his plans to attend the summit in South Africa. Fox News reported that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, makes a rare public appearance at a monument honoring U.S. cooperation during World War II, just hours before his summit with President Trump on Friday. And after the summit in Alaska, local media showed a video of President Putin kneeling at every Soviet pilot grave in Alaska. As both leaders met on the tarmac of the U.S. military base airport, a flyover of American military planes passed overhead, including fighter jets and what appeared to be a B-2 stealth bomber. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin emerged from a nearly 3-hour meeting on the Ukraine war and gave public statements, but left without announcing any agreement or ceasefire, and they refused to take questions from the press. U.S. fighter jets were seen escorting Vladimir Putin's plane out of Alaska after the summit with Trump. The Kremlin posted a video on Telegram appearing to show at least 2 U.S. F-22 fighter jets escorting the Russian president's plane out of Alaska following talks with Donald Trump. "There's no deal until there's a deal," Trump said. The White House had said there would be a news conference after the closed-door meeting, but both men walked off stage without taking any questions. Trump hosted the summit at a military base in Alaska in an audacious bid to broker a peace deal and stop a 3-year war with Ukraine and its ever-rising body count. It was not immediately clear what was agreed upon in the talks. "We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there," Trump said. President Donald Trump added via a post that, "A great and very successful day in Alaska. It was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement. President Zelensky will be coming to D.C., the Oval Office, on Monday." While President Putin and Trump were on the way to meet in Alaska, Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, in a number of press statements made available via his verified X social media account, said he held a staff meeting to discuss 3 key issues. The front, particularly the Pokrovsk sector. "We are countering the attempts of Russian forces to gain a foothold and increasing the pressure of our units on the occupier. We are succeeding. Units of the 79th and 82nd Air Assault Brigades are operating very effectively in the Dobropilya area. Today, a decision was made to further reinforce this and other areas in the Donetsk region. Special attention was paid to positions in the Zaporizhia region. I thank all our warriors for their resilience. The Russian army continues to suffer significant losses in its attempts to secure more favorable political positions for the Russian leadership at the meeting in Alaska. We understand this plan and are informing our partners about the real situation. We also discussed today the development of the contract system in the defense forces and the funding of Ukraine's defense and security forces for 2025-2026. Under any circumstances, our army will be ready to respond effectively and swiftly to threats to Ukrainian statehood. The priority is the development of a contract army. Today, I also expect a report from our intelligence on the current intentions of the Russian side and its preparations for the meeting in Alaska. Indeed, high stakes. The key thing is that this meeting should open up a real path toward a just peace and a substantive discussion between leaders in a trilateral format, Ukraine, the United States, and the Russian side. It is time to end the war, and the necessary steps must be taken by Russia. We are counting on America. We are ready, as always, to work as productively as possible. I held a meeting with the government team, the office, and the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council to discuss our diplomatic work, the highest priority areas. In particular, we addressed the funding of Ukraine's defense forces, auditing the effectiveness of coalitions with partners, special formats, the substance of our bilateral relations in key global areas, and our work at the EU level. I instructed that the foreign policy plan be updated for the period through the end of the year. On Monday, I expect the updated plan to be presented. With a neighbor like Russia, only the cooperation of free nations can effectively protect each of them. We value Poland's support for Ukraine. Ukraine's independence strengthens Poland's independence. And we must always remember that the miracle on the Vistula was made possible through joint efforts, and it saved Europe. In the same way, Ukrainians have been defending our state in the full-scale war for 4 years. By repelling the Russian army in Ukraine, near Kyiv, in the Sumy, Kharkiv, and Donetsk regions, as well as in the Black Sea, Ukrainians are truly ensuring the opportunity for all Europeans to live freely, free of Moscow's madness. I thank Poland for walking along this path shoulder to shoulder with us. Congratulations on Polish Armed Forces Day and best wishes for our and your independence to always remain strong. President Karol Nawrocki of Poland had said that, "Today we celebrate the 105th anniversary of the great Polish victory at the Battle of Warsaw in 1920. The Polish army, together with Ukrainian forces, successfully repelled the Red Army's westward march, safeguarding Europe from a communist revolution. For centuries, Russian imperialism has been a mortal threat to our freedom. Poland's political tradition teaches that Russian expansionism rests on a legacy of domestic despotism, in which the only free man is the ruler himself. But precisely because Russian despotism is the enemy of freedom, Russian imperialism can only be defeated through an alliance of free peoples. My nation halted Russian imperialism at Orsha, 1514, Klushino, 1610, and Warsaw, 1920. The Polish people know that resisting Russian imperialism is not merely an economic matter. It concerns the very essence of human and national freedom. Freedom is priceless. It can neither be bought nor sold. It must be defended. This is the Polish tradition, stretching back to the 15th century. I invite all who cherish freedom and peace to join my fellow Poles on August 15th in celebrating the halting of despotism and the defense of liberty.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Co-contestants in the last concluded general elections in Nigeria and former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, has faulted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's trip to Brazil and also condemned the president's frequent travel abroad at any slightest invitation and abandoned pressing issues of insecurity and other deplorable situations that make the nation bleeds. Specifically, Peter Obi said, "The situation we find ourselves in is deeply worrisome. Our president, who has not found it worthy to visit any of our troubled states, takes joy in traveling to foreign countries at the slightest invitation or excuse, often departing several days even before the events he's invited to." The presidency had in a statement on Wednesday said that President Bola Tinubu will depart Abuja on Thursday, August 14th, for a two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. The president will stop over in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, before proceeding to Japan. In Japan, President Tinubu will attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD9, in the city of Yokohama from August 20th to 22. With the theme, Co-create Innovative Solutions with Africa, TICAD9 will focus on Africa's economic transformation and improvements in the business environment and institutions through private investment and innovation. It will also promote a resilient and sustainable African society for human security, peace, and stability. In addition to attending plenary sessions on themes linked to the conference, the Nigerian president will hold bilateral meetings and meet the chief executive officers of some Japanese companies with investments in Nigeria. Initiated in 1993 by the Japanese government and co-hosted by the United Nations, UNDP, the African Union Commission, and the World Bank, TICAD is a triennial conference held alternately in Japan and Africa. The last one took place in August 2022 in Tunisia. The forum fosters high-level policy dialogue between African leaders and development partners. At the end of the TICAD9, President Tinubu will leave for Brasilia, the capital of the Federative Republic of Brazil, on a two-day state visit from Sunday, August 24th, to Monday, August 25. This follows an invitation by the Brazilian President, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. While in Brazil, President Tinubu will hold a bilateral meeting with his host and attend a business forum with Brazilian investors. His delegation, comprising key ministers and senior officials, will explore opportunities to strengthen cooperation and sign agreements and memoranda of understanding, MOUs, with the Brazilian government. Bayo Onanuga, special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, stated on August 13, 2025. Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate in the last concluded general elections in the West Africa country, in a statement on Thursday, said, "Again our president moves as the nation bleeds. Amid the deplorable state of our nation in all ramifications, we have a virtually indifferent president who has continued to display insensitivity to our situation. How can anyone explain that a president who came from Brazil recently and met with the president is returning to the same country, leaving the various degrees of challenges at home unresolved? The latest itinerary of the president shows he will depart Abuja on Thursday, August 14, for a two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. The president will stop over in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, before proceeding to Japan. In Japan, President Tinubu will attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD9, in the city of Yokohama from August 20 to 22. The itinerary is silent on the president's return date to his visibly troubled nation. The situation we find ourselves in is deeply worrisome. Our president, who has not found it worthy to visit any of our troubled states, takes joy in traveling to foreign countries at the slightest invitation or excuse, often departing several days even before the events he's invited to. In his last trip, for instance, he had a one-week state visit to St. Lucia before attending the BRICS summit, where Nigeria was merely invited as an observer, though the role was dressed up as partner to the invitation, which was more significant. The leaders of actual member countries who attended only arrived a day or two at most for the event. Nigeria's insecurity situation, economic hardship, and human suffering have reached their peak. We are now counted among the most insecure nations, the most fragile economies, and the hungriest countries in the world. This dire reality demands the full attention of Mr. President, and his travels should be more within our troubled states and communities, spending time on the ground, and taking decisive action to alleviate the people's suffering rather than these overseas conferences that contribute little or no tangible value to our nation's woes. And where the trip is necessary at all, it could be attended in just a few days rather than indulging in prolonged, unnecessary absences from a country that requires 24/7 attention. What our nation needs now is security of lives and properties, economic stability, and ensuring that our people have food on their table. Our president's planned trip of 12 days departing today, if necessary, should have been at most a 5-day trip, as the event he was invited to in Japan commences on the 20th. Nigeria today demands competent leadership with capacity and compassion to start dealing with the problems besetting it with the presence and sacrifice required. Mr. President must, as a matter of urgency, commence tours of our states with the same enthusiasm he shows for jetting out of the country every month. These visits will enable him to see, listen and learn more about what Nigerians are going through. Though Nigerians know that our huge problems cannot be solved overnight, they want to see 100% effort and tireless commitment to solving them. Most importantly, our president must know that he's not a tourist, but the chief executive of a troubled nation, so he must have consciousness, strict work schedules, and a strict traveling schedule to show that he has a troubled country to quickly return to.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered the Commissioner of Police in charge of Lagos Airport to withdraw the one-sided and obviously biased court case the Nigeria police force may have wrongly instituted against an Ibom Air passenger, Comfort Emanson, who was seen in viral videos retaliating and defending herself physically after a group of Ibom Air personnel and Lagos Airport team had attacked her and provoked her to action. The FG position on the issue was made known by the Nigeria Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, in a press release the minister signed and made available few minutes ago, although Festus Keyamo reversed himself and acknowledged that the issue was a case of confrontation between the 26-year-old passenger and the staff of IBOM Airlines, who in the new press release admitted that the staff of IBOM Air and the Lagos Airport Authority team acted wrongly, but the minister did not state how the attacked passenger would be compensated, most especially when her chest sexual organs were seen to be deliberately exposed after a suspected IBOM Airlines staff pulled off and tore the passenger shirt with obvious intention to expose the passenger's nakedness. The action of the federal government may ease the tension among millions of people who have accused the Nigeria police force of aiding and abetting the IBOM airline company to continue to attack and oppress the offended passenger, Comfort Bob, who is also identified as Comfort Emanson, by thus supporting the statement of IBOM Air Management, who in their first press release made statement that seems to have some level of deliberate falsehood and raising up a dead issue to win undue public sentiments, manipulate the Nigeria police force to help them secure detention holding charge from the Lagos State Magistrate Court to further oppress and intimidate the attacked passenger. Specifically, IBOM Air stated in her first press release that, shortly after the plane landed at Lagos Airport, the passenger waited for every other passenger on board the plane to disembark, and thereafter, without provocation, went to one of the plane hostesses, Juliana Edward. The IBOM Air Management described as purser, stepped on her, forcibly tore off her wig, removed her glasses and threw it to the floor, and used her footwear to assault her. She slapped her several times, and when the other cabin crew member tried to intervene, she slapped her too. She then attempted to forcibly remove a fire extinguisher to use as a weapon, an act that could have damaged and grounded the aircraft. Soon after the IBOM Air Management released the statement on Monday, a video surfaced on the internet that probably invalidated the statement of the IBOM Air Management and stood out as an acceptable evidence that the management of IBOM Air are people who may be rightly described as pathological liars who probably believed in telling lies as a way of managing crisis and handling difficult customers' relations, as seen in the viral video that surfaced the internet after the apparent falsehood of IBOM Air Management. The attacked passenger was seen politely telling the air hostess, Juliana Edward, to leave the doorway so that she can disembark from the plane. The seeming aggressor in this matter, the air hostess Juliana Edward, refused to yield to the appeal of the passenger, and IBOM Air Management in their first press release confirmed that the air hostess, Juliana Edward, deliberately blocked the doorway to prevent the passenger from disembarking the aircraft, and in the viral video, the attached wig hair on the head of the air hostess was still seen on her head and intact while the passenger was telling her to leave the doorway so that she can pass. Obviously, this is in contrary to the seemingly deliberate falsehood painted and stated in black and white by the IBOM Air Management that the air hostess' attached wig hair was destroyed by the passenger without provocation. Also, the attached wig hair on the passenger head and the jacket she was putting on were still intact as at the time she was telling the apparent aggressor, the air hostess, to leave the door, and another viral video later showed both the air hostess and the passenger dragging at the point of the plane divider cotton, and at this time, as seen in the video, both the passenger and air hostess wig hair were pulled off, including the passenger jacket she was putting on to cover her body completely. The natural hair on their heads could now be seen as they continued to drag each other at the plane doorway, and IBOM Air Management, in trying to seemingly win undue public sentiments, raised up a dead issue of a minor quarrel the passenger had with the air hostess and co-passenger over the passenger's alleged initial refusal to switch off her phone during the plane takeoff at Uyo Airport. The IBOM Air Management in the press release confirmed that the minor quarrel the passenger had with the air hostess and co-passenger over switching off phone at Uyo Airport was already a dead issue, and the action of the passenger never led to threat of aviation safety or violation of aviation safety procedures. Hence, the passenger was not deplaned at Uyo Airport. But we don't know why the management of IBOM Air decided to advertise and bring up the minor quarrel as a way to seemingly win public sentiments to cover up the true picture of a separate event that occurred between the passenger and the air hostess when the plane landed at Lagos Airport. and the Nigeria police force in the 5-count charges filed against the passenger at the Ikeja Magistrate Court in Lagos State, did not state or even mention the event that occurred at Uyo Airport before the plane took off. Announcing the withdrawal day early morning, the Nigeria Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, said, and in quotes, that, 1. In the last 48 hours, I have been in consultation with critical stakeholders in the aviation sector and those involved in the unfortunate incidents regarding the unruly behaviors of certain individuals at our airports of recent. 2. Though regrettable, we think valuable lessons have been learned by all sides to these incidents, and airport security protocol, especially, have been well highlighted for the traveling public. If nothing at all, the episodes have undoubtedly helped to raise public awareness about appropriate conduct within the aviation space. 3. As highlighted in my previous statements on the last two incidents, clear wrongs were committed by both the offending passengers and staff of the airlines involved from all the evidence available to us and those available to the public. It is clear that all the actors involved cannot continue to highlight the injury or injustice done to them without acknowledging their own equal culpability. 5. Therefore, after reviewing the entire incidents, including appeals made by well-meaning individuals and remorse shown by the actors, the following decisions have been reached. A. In the case of the unruly passenger, Comfort Emanson, on the IBOM airline on Sunday, the 10th of August, 2025, I have conferred with IBOM Airline to withdraw the complaint against her today. When the police took her statement in presence of her lawyer, she exhibited great remorse for her conduct. B. Subsequent to the withdrawal of the complaint by the complainant, the CP of Airport Command and the police prosecutor will immediately take the remaining steps to facilitate her release from Kirikiri prisons within this week. C. I have also conferred with the leadership of the Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, and have appealed to them to lift the lifetime flying ban imposed on her, to which they agreed. The details of the resolution will be made public by the AON subsequently. D. In the case of Kwam 1, the NCAA is to reduce his flight ban to a 1-month period. FAAN will also work with the music star with a view to engaging him as an ambassador for proper airport security protocol going forward. E. Having publicly demonstrated penitence, the NCAA is also to withdraw its criminal complaints against Kwam 1 earlier lodged with the police. F. In the case of Captain Olaranti Agoyi, and the co-pilot, First Officer Ivan Oliver of Valujet, the NCAA is to restore their licenses after the same period of 1-month ban after undergoing some mandatory professional reappraisal. The details will be announced by the NCAA. 6. I have directed all relevant aviation agencies in collaboration with other complementary agencies outside aviation to immediately begin a retreat next week to properly retrain and prepare our aviation security personnel on how to deal with errant and disruptive passengers and how to de-escalate potentially explosive situations. The retreat will be fully covered by the press with the opportunity to ask all the relevant questions. 7. The airlines will also have their own session when the conduct and attitude of their staff towards members of the traveling public will be in full focus. 8. These above decisions were taken by government and the airline operators purely on compassionate grounds, as government will never pander to base sentiments, politically motivated views or warped legal opinions when clear encroachment of our laws are involved. 9. We are also sending a clear message that we take safety and security in the aviation sector very seriously, and we have decided to draw a line after these clemencies. Nigeria Police Force in the 5-count charges filed against the female passenger of IBOM Air, stated that, Count 1, that you comfort Bob on the 10th day of August, 2025, at about 14:30 hours, while on board IBOM aircraft number, SNBXP parked at Murtala Muhammad Airport Terminal 2, MMA2, Ikeja, in the Ikeja Magisterial District, did behave in an unruly and disorderly manner by shouting on top of your voice, abusing and assaulting the flight crew and refusing to disembark from the aircraft after landing, and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 4(1) and punishable under Section 4(2) of Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAAN, by Law 2005. Count 2, that you come forward Bob, on the same date, time and place, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did assault one Juliana Edward by slapping and hitting her cheeks with your right hand and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 170(1)(a)(b), and punishable under Section 172 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. Count 3, that you comfort Bob, on the same date and place, at about 14:50 hours, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did assault one Jokpam Sagan by hitting her face with your slippers and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 171(a)(b), and punishable under Section 172 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. Count 4, that you comfort Bob, on the same date, time and place, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did willfully damage the aircraft divider Cotton value $2,500 $2,500 belonging to IBOM Airline and thereby committed an offense contrary to and punishable under Section 350 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. Count 5, that you comfort Bob, on the same date, time and place, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did willfully damage one braided wig by dragging and tearing the wig valued 110,000 naira, 110,000 nairas, belonging to Juliana Edward, and thereby committed an offense contrary to and punishable under Section 350 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. The IBOM Air Management, in a press release issued on Monday entitled, "Incident Involving an Unruly Passenger on August 10, 2025, said, and in quotes, that IBOM Air confirms that on Sunday, August 10, 2025, an incident occurred on board our Uyo-Lagos flight involving a passenger, Comfort Emanson, whose conduct posed a serious threat to the safety of our crew, passengers, and aircraft. Shortly before takeoff from Uyo, Emanson was instructed in line with standard aviation safety procedures to switch off her mobile phone. She bluntly refused to comply until the pilot in command made an announcement, after which a fellow passenger seated beside her took the phone and switched it off. This action prompted a verbal tirade from Emanson. The situation was eventually calmed, and the flight departed as scheduled. Upon arrival in Lagos, Emanson waited for all other passengers to disembark and then proceeded to confront the purser who had earlier instructed her. She walked up to the unsuspecting purser, stepped on her, forcibly tore off her wig, removed her glasses and threw it to the floor, and used her footwear to assault her. She slapped her several times, and when the other cabin crew member tried to intervene, she slapped her too. She then attempted to forcibly remove a fire extinguisher to use as a weapon, an act that could have damaged and grounded the aircraft. By this time, the pilot in command had alerted airport security. Before security could arrive, the purser, as seen on the viral video on the internet, prevented the passenger from leaving the aircraft until security arrived. The arrival of IBOM Air security personnel did not deter the passenger, as she attacked him as well, lashing out violently at the security personnel. She was then restrained and removed from the aircraft by force. Even after disembarking, she continued to assault IBOM Air security personnel, and even slapped the ground supervisor. The passenger was removed from the ramp and taken into custody by FAAN security and handed over to the Nigeria Police Force for further investigation. IBOM Air has since submitted a report on the incident to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and placed a travel restriction on Emanson, who will no longer be permitted to fly on any of our aircraft. IBOM Air reiterates its zero-tolerance policy towards any form of unruly or violent conduct that threatens the safety of passengers, crew, or equipment. Such behavior will be met with the strongest possible response, including legal action and permanent restriction from our services. We commend the bravery and professionalism of our crew in handling this situation under extremely challenging circumstances, as well as the swift support from airport security and the Nigeria police. Safety remains our highest priority. We urge all passengers to comply with crew instructions at all times for the safety, security, and comfort of everyone on board. We have reported that the Nigeria Aviation Minister, Festus Keyamo, says the ministry has directed for the aviation staff who released the video footage containing the aspect of an IBOM Airlines passenger, Comfort Emanson or Bob, seen in an indecent appearance with her chest sexual organs exposed after the passenger shirt was torn by an IBOM Airlines staff, while security operatives were seen in the viral video dragging the aggrieved passenger out of the aircraft following an act of confrontation between the passenger and IBOM Airlines hostesses, which one of the hostesses blocked the right of way of the passenger and prevented the passenger from disembarking from the plane. And after countless warning to the airline passenger to leave the road, the passenger went physical with the hostess by allegedly slapping her on the face, which the confrontation with the hostess apparently led to the alleged destruction of the plane divider cotton, which IBOM Airlines valued at $2,500, as stated in count 5 of the 5-count charges the police filed against the passenger at Ikeja Magistrate Court in Lagos State. We have reported that a careful study of the viral video involving the IBOM airline personnel, Lagos airport security operatives and an aggrieved passenger, Comfort Emanson, on board the airline plane on Sunday indicated that while the enraged passenger was being dragged off the plane by 3 men, who held her 2 hands and legs, suspending her a little bit on the air, a lady putting on IBOM Air corporate clothes who was behind the camera lens could be seen in the video to have approached the passenger at the door point of the plane while the passenger was about to be taken out, apparently dipped her hand towards the waist part of the passenger, untucked the passenger shirt from the trousers, grabbed and pulled the passenger's shirt towards her head, and in the process, the passenger shirt got tore and the passenger's chest sexual organs or private parts were completely exposed. The action of the IBOM airline staff appeared to be deliberate, as the airline female staff was not part of those dragging the passenger off the aircraft, and after the female passenger's body was exposed, the IBOM Airlines female staff never joined or assisted the security operatives to drag the passenger off the plane. This indicated that the motive of the female staff of IBOM Airline was solely to remove the passenger shirt and expose the aggrieved airline passenger to ridicule.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Nigeria Aviation Minister, Festus Keyamo, says the ministry has directed for the aviation staff who released the video footage containing the aspect of an IBOM Airlines passenger, Comfort Emanson or Bob, seen in an indecent appearance with her chest sexual organs exposed after the passenger shirt was torn by an IBOM Airlines staff, while security operatives were seen in the viral video dragging the aggrieved passenger out of the aircraft following an act of confrontation between the passenger and IBOM Airlines hostesses, which one of the hostesses blocked the right of way of the passenger and prevented the passenger from disembarking from the plane. And after countless warning to the airline passenger to leave the road, the passenger went physical with the hostess by allegedly slapping her on the face, which the confrontation with the hostess apparently led to the alleged destruction of the plane divider cotton, which IBOM Airlines valued at $2,500, as stated in count 5 of the 5-count charges the police filed against the passenger at Ikeja Magistrate Court in Lagos State. The aviation minister, Festus Keyamo, who described the behavior of the passenger as unruly, said, although the airline staff is right to video record the event of the passenger's behavior for the purpose of legal action, but it is totally unacceptable for the staff to release part of the video that exposed the passenger's nakedness, especially her breasts. Details of the minister's statement reads verbatim below. Enough is enough. Reading the Riot Act on Aviation Safety and Security in reference to the case of unruly Comfort Bob on IBOM Airline and related incidents. Earlier today, we again woke up to viral videos of a female passenger on IBOM Airline, now identified as Comfort Emanson or Comfort Bob, who went berserk and physically assaulted both the flight crew and the ground staff. The incident took place yesterday, August 10, 2025 on IBOM airline flight number Q153 from Uyo to Lagos at about 14:54 hours. IBOM Airline has since issued a statement to provide some context to the effect that the whole unfortunate incident arose because of the refusal of the passenger to switch off her phone during takeoff as required by extant international civil aviation regulations. Consequently, in the last few hours, I have been speaking with the Commissioner of Police of the Airport Police Command, the DG of the NCAA and his team, the MD of FAAN and her team, the COO of IBOM Air and his team about the incident. Apart from the indefinite flight ban imposed on the said unruly passenger, both local and international, by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, the police has promptly arraigned her this morning at the Ikeja Magistrates Court for criminal offences and remanded her at Kirikiri prisons as she could not provide adequate sureties in court. I have attached the charge sheet and remand order for clarity. We also note the scuffle that took place between the unruly passenger and ground personnel before she was eventually subdued. This was because of her uncooperative attitude. Whilst we support the filming of her recalcitrant behavior as evidence to prosecute her, what is deplorable is to release such evidence containing indecent exposure to the public to ridicule her. That is totally unacceptable to us. We will not fold our arms and tolerate the debasing of womanhood. I have therefore directed that whoever released that part of the video containing the indecent exposure amongst the staff should be singled out and adequately sanctioned. I have also directed that the airlines must continue to train and retrain their staff in public relations and how to deal with potentially explosive situations in order to defuse them promptly or nip them in the bud, except when it becomes inevitable. I have also directed a joint security meeting between relevant agencies next week for better coordination of security measures in situations like this or similar ones we witnessed recently. For genuinely aggrieved passengers, there are clearly laid down remedies to address grievances. The Consumer Protection Directorate of the NCAA has consistently advertised these remedies, and there is no point trying to take the laws into one's hands that may lead to dire consequences. We will continue to apply equal sanctions available to us in aviation on any such erring passengers, that is lengthy flight bans, and report the matters to other law enforcement agencies to do their bit within their powers. We have reported that a careful study of the viral video involving the IBOM airline personnel, Lagos airport security operatives and an aggrieved passenger, Comfort Emanson on board the airline plane on Sunday indicated that while the enraged passenger was being dragged off the plane by three men, who held her two hands and legs, suspending her a little bit on the air, a lady putting on IBOM Air corporate clothes who was behind the camera lens could be seen in the video to have approached the passenger at the door point of the plane while the passenger was about to be taken out, apparently dipped her hand towards the waist part of the passenger, untucked the passenger shirt from the trousers, grabbed and pulled the passenger's shirt towards her head, and in the process, the passenger shirt got tore and the passenger's chest, sexual organs or private parts were completely exposed. The action of the IBOM airline staff appeared to be deliberate, as the airline female staff was not part of those dragging the passenger off the aircraft, and after the female passenger's body was exposed, the IBOM airline's female staff never joined or assisted the security operatives to drag the passenger off the plane. This indicated that the motive of the female staff of IBOM airline was solely to remove the passenger shirt and expose the aggrieved airline passenger to ridicule.
Madam, I beg come on for make I pass. Everybody that leave the area. Come on for make I pass. Now that's the wahala. I want to go out. And here hostess is standing on the way.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
A careful study of the viral video involving the IBOM airline personnel, Lagos airport security operatives and an aggrieved passenger, Comfort Emanson on board the airline plane on Sunday indicated that while the enraged passenger was being dragged off the plane by three men, who held her two hands and legs, suspending her a little bit on the air. A lady putting on Ibom Air corporate clothes who was behind the camera lens could be seen in the video to have approached the passenger at the door point of the plane while the passenger was about to be taken out, apparently dipped her hand towards the waist part of the passenger, untucked the passenger shirt from the trousers, grabbed and pulled the passenger's shirt towards her head, and in the process, the passenger shirt got tore and the passenger's chest, sexual organs or private parts were completely exposed. The action of the Ibom airline staff appeared to be deliberate, as the airline female staff was not part of those dragging the passenger off the aircraft, and after the female passenger's body was exposed, the Ibom Airlines female staff never joined or assisted the security operatives to drag the passenger off the plane. This indicated that the motive of the female staff of Ibom Airline was solely to remove the passenger shirt and expose the aggrieved airline passenger to ridicule. The video of the passenger's partial nakedness, especially her two breasts completely exposed due to the apparent action of a yet-to-be arrested and prosecuted female staff of Ibom Airlines, has since gone viral, with some pornographic channels already updating their channels with the partial nakedness of the Ibom Airlines passenger. According to Punch newspaper, Comfort Emanson, the passenger accused of assaulting airline officials aboard an Ibom Air flight from Uyo to Lagos, has been charged in court and remanded in Kirikiri Correctional Center in Lagos. Tunde Mashood, Special Advisor on Media and Communications to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kayamo, San, confirmed the development in a post on his official X handle on Monday. The more reason the flying public should be more careful. The unruly passenger on the Uyo Lagos-bound Ibom Air, Miss Comfort Emanson, has been charged to court and she's now cooling off in Kirikiri, Mashood wrote. Ibom Air, in a press statement on Monday, said that Ibom Air confirms that on Sunday, August 10, 2025, an incident occurred on board our Uyo Lagos flight involving a passenger, Comfort Emanson, whose conduct posed a serious threat to the safety of our crew, passengers, and aircraft. Shortly before takeoff from Uyo, Emanson was instructed in line with standard aviation safety procedures to switch off her mobile phone. She bluntly refused to comply until the pilot in command made an announcement, after which a fellow passenger seated beside her took the phone and switched it off. This action prompted a verbal tirade from Emanson. The situation was eventually calmed, and the flight departed as scheduled. Upon arrival in Lagos, Emanson waited for all other passengers to disembark and then proceeded to confront the purser who had earlier instructed her. She walked up to the unsuspecting purser, stepped on her, forcibly tore off her wig, removed her glasses and threw it to the floor, and used her footwear to assault her. She slapped her several times, and when the other cabin crew member tried to intervene, she slapped her too. She then attempted to forcibly remove a fire extinguisher to use as a weapon, an act that could have damaged and grounded the aircraft. By this time, the pilot in command had alerted airport security. Before security could arrive, the purser, as seen on the viral video on the internet, prevented the passenger from leaving the aircraft until security arrived. The arrival of Ibom Air security personnel did not deter the passenger as she attacked him as well, lashing out violently at both Ibom Air and FAAN security. She was then restrained and removed from the aircraft by force. Even after disembarking, she continued to assault both Ibom Air and FAAN security staff and even slapped the ground supervisor. The passenger was removed from the ramp and taken into custody by FAAN security and handed over to the Nigeria police force for further investigation. Ibom Air has since submitted a report on the incident to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and placed a travel restriction on Emanson, who will no longer be permitted to fly on any of our aircraft. Ibom Air reiterates its zero-tolerance policy towards any form of unruly or violent conduct that threatens the safety of passengers, crew, or equipment. Such behavior will be met with the strongest possible response.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Management of National Youth Service Corps under the leadership of Brigadier General Olukunle Nafiu has given reasons why a serving Nigeria Youth Corps member, Ashie Rita Aguimaye was denied NYSC discharge certificate that could have enabled her exit the one-year mandatory program after she completed the one-year paramilitary service to her nation as a new graduate, and, according to a statement posted and made available by NYSC on Sunday, with no name of the authority responsible for the press statement written or mentioned in the statement, the NYSC said Corps member Rita Aguimaye's discharge certificate was withheld and her service year extended by 2 months following her alleged absence or failure to attend the April 2025 NYSC biometrics clearance at Etiosa Local Government Area Secretariat, and the month stated by NYSC was barely few days after the Corps member had cried out loud in the month of March 2025 over the apparent increasing high rates of hunger as a result of rising costs of living in Nigeria, and as such, she described the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a terrible president. In a swift reaction to the reason given by NYSC, Rita Aguimaye's lawyer, Barrister Anibahe Efyang, while answering questions from Channel's television program presenters on Monday morning, said, the statement issued by the management of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, on its decision to extend the service period, and withhold the certificate of national service of Corps member Ashie Rita Aguimaye alias Raye does not represent the truth of the matter, saying, on April 7, 2025, Rita was physically present at the local government secretariat for the head count and clearance, but the NYSC official at the local government level deliberately refused to attend to her, even after 6 hours waiting, during which she was asked to go back and queued up on the line repeatedly. The NYSC official still refused to attend to her, and thereafter, on April 11, 2025, the Corps member went to meet the NYSC official and begged her to allow her perform her April 2025 biometrics clearance. The NYSC female official refused and asked the Corps member to leave. This, Amnesty International said the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, must rescind its decision. The Amnesty International described as arbitrary and outrageous, saying, NYSC allegedly used bureaucratic tricks to extend the Corps member national service year over the government's unacceptable intolerance of dissenting voices, with former Nigeria Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, describing the NYSC action as impunity, and as such cautioned the government against subjecting everything to politics. And on Monday morning, the former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, issued a statement and said, in our country today, hunger and poverty are not just distant statistics, they are the harsh reality that millions of our people face daily. Recently, the United Nations stated that about 34 million Nigerians will face acute food insecurity, and about 63% of our population, which is about 133 million people, now live in multidimensional poverty. Inflation, even with the suppressed statistics, is nearly 30%. While unemployment and economic mismanagement have nearly wiped out our once vibrant middle class, families who once lived stable lives are now slipping into poverty. Omiyele Sowore, the founder of Sahara Reporters News Media, said he was ready to stand beside the Corps member and escort her to collect her NYSC discharge certificate last week, but the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu prevented him by thus unlawfully detaining him at the police station. In quotes, Sowore said, "It is with deep sadness and renewed outrage that I address the ongoing injustice against Rita Aguimaye, Raye. Nigeria's National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, has seized her discharge certificate because she criticized the Tinubu regime over economic hardships. I was fully prepared to stand beside her to help her receive her NYSC discharge certificate. However, the criminal Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime unlawfully detained me in Abuja this past week. This regime thrives on intimidation, repression, and silencing the youth. We had promised to fight for her justice, and that promise remains unbroken. We will not stop until we achieve victory, not just for Raye, but for every Nigerian denied their rights by an oppressive system. We must not forget that Raye's courage and uncompromising stance compelled the authorities to increase the monthly allowance for her colleagues to 77,000 nairas. This significant improvement was won through her sacrifice, and it is an injustice of the highest order that she continues to be denied what is rightfully hers upon completion of her service year. We will not abandon her. Her fight is our fight. The struggle continues until we win. We reject the NYSC's spurious position in its entirety. Youth Corps member Ashie Rita Aguimaye Reyes case could not and should not be dismissed as a mere biometric clearance issue. This was not about paperwork. This was punishment in retaliation for her public criticism of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's disastrous economic policies. Silencing dissent is not service to the nation. It is a service to tyranny. We stand with Raye. We will continue to fight against NYSC until the injustice is corrected. Revolutiono. NYSC in the press release had said that the NYSC management wishes to clarify misleading information circulating on social media regarding Corps member Ashie Rita Aguimaye, state code number 24B 8325. Contrary to false claims that she was denied a Certificate of National Service, CNS, due to critical remarks about the government, this assertion is entirely unfounded and false in its entirety. Rita is among the 131 Corps members whose Certificates of National Service, CNS, were withheld for valid disciplinary reasons. Specifically, Rita's service year has been extended by 2 months for failing to attend the April 2025 biometrics clearance, a decision that aligns with the NYSC bylaws. It is important to note that this extension is a standard procedure and not unique to her case, and the principle of equal treatment was only applied in this case. The NYSC management thus urges the public to approach this matter with understanding, as extending service for non-compliance is a long-standing tradition within the NYSC and should not be politicized. The NYSC scheme remains committed to discharging its mandate, in line with the dictates of the Constitution. Nigeria is ours. Nigeria we serve. Former Nigeria Vice President, Atiku Abubakar said, "What manner of impunity is this? Everything should not be subjected to politics. I hope that Ashie Rita Aguimaye's NYSC discharge certificate is not being withheld because she had the courage to complain about the economic hardship under the President Bola Tinubu-led administration. It is unacceptable that the young lady, who had served her country without queries, should not have received her National Youth Service Corps certificate 1 year after passing out. The appropriate authorities should take urgent steps to ensure that she gets her discharge certificate." Amnesty International in a press release said, "The National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, must rescind its arbitrary and outrageous decision to deny Rita Ashie, widely known as Raye, her NYSC discharge certificate upon completion of a year of national service. Using bureaucratic tricks to extend her national service shows unacceptable intolerance of dissenting voices. The flagrant decision to withhold her certificate may not be unconnected with her comments on social media on the widespread economic hardship as a result of President Bola Tinubu's economic policies. It is perfectly within her right to express discontent peacefully. Instead of punishing her by withholding her NYSC certificate for her opinions on rampant inflation, the authorities should prioritize addressing the country's escalating economic woes. The Nigerian authorities must stop responding with abuse of power and intimidation to individuals and groups who express dissenting opinions, in utter disregard for the Nigerian Constitution and international law. Holding and voicing dissenting views is not a crime. In March, Rita Ashie faced threat to life and violence for her viral TikTok video criticizing President Bola Tinubu's government over unprecedented economic hardship that plunged millions of people into abject poverty. Since May 2023, series of economic policies introduced by Nigerian government have been undermining the ability of people on low incomes to secure their right to adequate standard of living. Millions of people in Nigeria are increasingly unable to meet the costs of education, food and healthcare. No one should be punished for expressing dissenting opinions. Authorities have obligation to uphold and respect the right to freedom of expression, without discrimination. Former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, in a detailed statement on Monday, said, In our country today, hunger and poverty are not just distant statistics, they are the harsh reality that millions of our people face daily. Recently, the United Nations stated that about 34 million Nigerians will face acute food insecurity, and about 63% of our population, which is about 133 million people, now live in multidimensional poverty. Inflation, even with the suppressed statistics, is nearly 30%, while unemployment and economic mismanagement have nearly wiped out our once vibrant middle class. Families who once lived stable lives are now slipping into poverty. But this is not just ordinary, it is as a result of incompetent leadership without capacity and compassion, who are not interested in putting the Nigerian people first in their actions. Other nations have faced similar challenges and turned their fortunes around through disciplined leadership, sound economic policies, and a total commitment from the leaders to invest in human development and pulling their people out of poverty. A recent example is what is happening in Argentina. In Argentina, over 52% of its population lived in poverty by early 2024 according to the World Bank, with millions of Argentines unable to meet basic needs. Inflation was above 200%, and economic confidence had collapsed. Yet, within 2 years, through decisive action to cut waste in governance and prioritize economic stability, the newly inaugurated president was able to cut down the poverty rate to 38.1% from 52% in just 2 years, and extreme poverty fell to 8.2%, with inflation just around 2 to 3% monthly. As of 2025, the urban poverty had declined to 31.6%, lifting millions of people out of poverty. Investor confidence grew and the economy began to grow. The people now see real improvements in the daily lives. Both Argentina and the current Nigerian leadership assumed office in the same year, and this proves what I have always stated, that 2 years may not be enough to change a nation with a 100% turnaround, but it is more than enough to kickstart the transformation journey that will change the fortune of our dear country, with the people witnessing real and genuine change, but only if the leadership is honest, focused, and committed to the people. Nigeria can work. We can reduce hunger and restore dignity to Nigerians. But this will not happen while corruption and criminality dominate our governance. Our nation requires leaders who will put the people first, manage resources prudently, and stand firm in rejecting corrupt practices. Nigeria will work, but only if we, as leaders, commit to tackling corruption, cutting the cost of governance, and focusing on critical areas of development like education, healthcare, and lifting the people out of poverty, just as other nations have done with remarkable results. A new Nigeria is possible. We had reported that after the Nigeria-Biafra Civil War, the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, was established on May 22, 1973 to give the youths the opportunity to leave their parents and stay alone to contribute to the betterment of the West Africa country, Nigeria. Interestingly, a few days ago, one of the serving corpers, Ashie Rita Agwemaye, went to the market in Lagos State to buy foodstuffs, but she was shocked that the prices of foodstuffs in the month of March have again increased far more than they were previous months. Apparently faced with the heat of passion, Agwemaye took to social media to call on the youths to unite and defend the country from total economy collapse, saying it was her first time to leave her parents and start paying domestic bills alone, adding that the money she spends on transport is more than the monthly salary NYSC is paying her, begging the youths to stage a 30 days non-stop challenge protest to make the country President Bola Ahmed Tinubu she described as a terrible person to be alive to his political and institutional responsibilities of making cost of living reasonably okay for people to afford, stressing that some Nigerians are pretending to still be rich whereas the bad economy has pushed them into poverty. This, Reno Omokri, former presidential spokesperson who have been living abroad since 2014, reacted and said that there is no country in the world where a paramilitary official like the corper is permitted to criticize the government.
She didn't participate in.
Thank you for having me. I think this is a matter that Nigerians who have followed this case since March when it started closely would be able to make reasonable deductions. Now, let me start by saying that the statement issued by the management of the National Youth Service Corps yesterday is quite unfortunate. It betrays the very ideal behind the establishment of the NYSC. In their statement, they claim that Raye is being punished and penalized in compliance with the bylaws of the corps, and that our service period has been extended for 2 months, and her certificate of national service withheld because she missed or was absent from the biometric clearance for the month of April. But the truth of the matter is that not only did Raye Rita Ogwamaye present herself for clearance in the month of April, specifically on the 7th of April, she also attended the CDS, which took place on the same date. Because if you are saying that a corps member did not undergo clearance for a particular month, one would want to know what was the reason for missing a clearance. They haven't said anything in that regard. And the simple reason is because what the NYSC has said publicly is completely false. This lady presented herself before LGI, the local government inspector of Etiosa local government, one Mrs. Veronica Abele. This is the same woman who not only ignored her. Initially she claimed, oh, go and join the queue, go to the back. She complied, of course. It got to her turn again. She will send her to the back again. This lady spent 6 hours. Ryan spent 6 hours hoping, pleading, begging, almost prostrating to be cleared. She refused to clear. And guess what? She sees the clearance letter. Because if you are saying someone has not been cleared, for you to be cleared as a corps member, many of us went through this scheme. For you to be cleared, you must have a clearance letter from your PPA, without which even the NYSC cannot clear you. That is even if you show up. I have corps members who are serving in our firm, and every month I have to sign their clearance to say that, look, these individuals have worked, they have reported at their PPA for the month under reference, please attend to them. That is what happened. She went there with a clearance letter from her place of primary assignment. Mrs. Veronica Abele collected the clearance letter and then pretended as if she did not want to attend to her at that time, as I said. When she kept pleading, the woman now started verbally attacking her. She persisted. She then told her she was not going to clear her.
I did not get my NYC certificate.
Ask her to get out, that she will not attend to her. And Raya said, look, Madam Bed, please, assuming I have done anything by the NYC bylaws, which is correct, I am supposed to face the court disciplinary committee.
It's been a long time I went to the gym, and
that infuriated the woman the more. That who are you to even make a suggestion about what the bylaw says? And ordered her to leave. What was she supposed to do after 6 hours? This is after she has seen her clearance letter. She sent her away. On the 11th of April, Ryan went back to Mrs. Veronica Abele's office. This is few days after the date for CDA and clearance. Begged her, pleaded with her, please, claim me for the month of April. She said, no, I don't have a problem with you. Okay, but nothing can be done now. We have finished monthly clearance. This is 11th of April.
Did she bring all this to your notice at this time in April?
I'm a lawyer. I'm privy to these things I'm telling you. I'm privy to these things I'm telling you.
As far back as April?
Of course, and let me make it clear to you.
Osazuwa Connected, bringing you the news in a more digital way. Osazuwa Connected, bringing you the news in a more digital way.